This message is for Brian Kelleher, Brexiteer, and I hope you have a great birthday. This comes from your good friend Aidan. Now, it's a bit early in the day, so all I've got actually is coffee, but I hope you enjoy a few pints with the lads tonight. Up
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Here we go. Let's see. Microphone on. Camera on. There we go. Hello, everybody. Yep. Alright. We're on. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the podcast stroke live stream. Appreciate you being here, joining me on this, what date is it? 13th of October 2020. Right, just let me get things set up here because I'm running a wee bit late. There we go. Okay, I think we're all good. So, welcome to the live stream, everybody. Hope you're well. I know I am. Although I'm listening, I do sound very sexy in my headphones here. Right, deep voiced. I'll have a little drink. Hopefully, get rid of that. Yeah. Okay. So, hope you're well. Tonight we're going to talk about Julian Assange. I spoke about him a few times, and I'll continue to talk about him because it's one of the crimes of the century that man is in jail on basically because of a CIA plot. But here's the thing. I wonder, did you know this? Did you know that the CIA had plotted to kill him in London? I bet you didn't. Sort of like they planned like a heist, like out of a movie, in the street in the middle of London. They were going to murder him. Well, whether they were going to do it or not, they made the plan, they spoke of it. Obviously they didn't do it. And it was revealed on Yahoo News, a big expose revealed all the details. The expose is pretty massive, and I haven't read it all. But I will read a Guardian article about it for you, which will point out, which will, let you know, give you the details, give you the bullet points, let me say. So, what else? Nigel Farrage made the news the other day. He's now a rail man, apparently. Didn't realise myself. I wouldn't have had him down as a natural provo. What the fuck do I know? What do I know? No, he's not, Andy. No, he's not. Yes, he fucking is. I've got video evidence. I'll show you. What else? First thing I'm going to read is a Brian Feeney article. The weekly Brian Feeney article, who always seems to make my podcast because he's so bang on. And he... his article this week was about Boris Johnson wanting to tear up the withdrawal agreement. So it'll keep us up to date with the shit show that keeps on giving, which is Brexit. And then we're going to end with a very sexy story. Ireland's Sweathouses. We used to have these. And we'll talk about it. I've a great piece for you for that I'm going to read from. But one of the things that this story, as well as all the others, I like to end my podcast with this, with a little bit of our lost culture, or not so lost culture. But what these stories always remind me of and illustrate for me is that lost culture. So I'll read. I should have this as my bloody. I should get this tattooed on my forehead because I believe in it so strongly. But there's a James Connolly quote, and it's my pinned tweet on Twitter, and it says, "In the name of a superior civilization, the British Empire crushed the development of native genius And in the name of superior capitalist development, it destroyed the native industries of a sixth of the human race. Right? And I believe that. I believe that is absolutely correct. I think because what we know about what empire does, what colonialism does, it must destroy the culture, the civilization of the people that they've targeted to dominate and suppress, repress, ultimately murder and kill and everything else. How else do you explain again the thing about India? How did 300,000 British people control a country of 300 million? It took them, separate them from their culture, divide and conquer. They did exactly the same in Ireland. So that's why these stories are always interesting to me, because whenever I find out about these little things, like Irish Sweathouses, you go, I didn't even know we did this. Why do I not know we did this? This is why we don't know, right? There's a reason. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. There's a reason. And we must try and do something about it, okay? So that's why I like to finish with those. That's why I like these stories. So, right, let's get on with it. Into the thing. First thing, as always, every week, we do the update. Oh, if you're listening to the pod, as always, like, share, subscribe, please. Come and join us over on. Let me know, by the way, I do this every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. The circumstances have changed here at the house, so I could change the time. I'll maybe put a wee tweet out about that. So if anybody wants, if you think it's too early, too close to tea time, people still putting kids to bed and all that stuff, let me know. I can move it. I can make it a bit later. I think I might do that. When people have got their feet up, and because I would love to have a bit more interaction on the YouTube channel. There's a few regular faces turn up every week, and it's great. And but the videos on YouTube are getting played, so the views are building every week. It's not massive. Listen, I'm not gonna. Who wants to sit down on YouTube and watch an hour and a half of me fucking talking shit? But it's worth me doing, let me say, and it's growing every week. There's a couple of extra views. Like, I want to say, there's not many views, like less than 100. So, but I think it's still worth me doing it. I'm still going to persevere. But if you think I'm going too early, if I need to go later, let me know, and I will. I think that's a thing I'm going to do. So, right, updates. What have I got written down for updates? So, yes, I had a gig last week on Sunday. So I had a gig last Sunday in the American Bar supporting Stevie Scullion, aka Melodian. He has a residency every Sunday in October, and he's playing one of his 5 records each week from right through, solo on his own. What a fucking brilliant thing to do, and what a guy. So when he's got a different guest artist every week. So last Sunday it was me. I got to do this before the pandemic with him as well. He did something very similar, but it was with the full band thing, and it was just one of my favourite gigs ever, both playing and watching, and I loved it so much. So then when he asked me to do it again, he says, we're social distancing still, so, it's all a bit like that. And I jumped at the chance. So I did it on Sunday. Now, I have a new song, and I wanted to get it finished for the gig. I was going to play it out for the first time, and Sorry, I'm a little bit froggy, a little bit hoarse in the throat. I don't think I have the Rona. Don't think so. So the song, it's called Glass. It's about the lock, about Loch Ness. I'm obsessed with the lock. And so I wrote this song, and I didn't have it finished. And I says, right, okay, I'll use the gig at the American bar with Stevie as my target. Some people say they don't work to a deadline. I don't work without one. It's simple as that. If give me a deadline, I'll get her done most of the time, or at least take a good stab at it. So I was using the gig in the American bar as a deadline, self-imposed deadline, and I had given myself Friday all day. I'd gotten up the date with everything. We've a load of band merch going out, and I'm doing that. So because we reissued our second album on vinyl it was a third repressing of that. So it was second repressing. Or not the second repressing, a repress of that. If it's the second repressing, it's the third, isn't that right? I don't know. So, but I got held up, and we know the situation here with the house with the kids and everything. I got held up. And Friday was just a write-off, and I never got to finish the song, and I couldn't do it on Saturday. But I had most of it done, and it was the back end of the song that I was concerned about, because I hadn't got the lyrics completely right yet. But I had a scratch, what do you call it, like a scratch lyric? At some stuff, the beginnings of what was going to be. There was elements of those lyrics would probably end up in the final version. So I says, fuck it, you know what? It's done. It's not done. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to tell the audience what it is, and tell them it's not finished, and I'm going to play it anyway, because I want to play it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song, I believe. And I played it, and I was very brave. And I played an unfinished song live on stage, and I was very brave, and I did it well. And this is my point. As an artist, and I give this advice to anybody that is an artist in any field, you've got to be brave. You got to be brave when you're putting your stuff out there. But tell people, you can tell them, and they can see the experiment that's going on live on stage in front of them, and they love it. And even if you fucking totally bin it, even if you end up completely fucking screwing the pooch, as they say, it's still going to be great. If you get all the way through the thing and the last verse you just fucking screw it all up, doesn't matter. It's good. It's good anyway. So I did that, and it was brilliant. I loved it. I loved the gig. Stevie asked me to play for about a half an hour. He says, I'll play whatever you want, but about half an hour do. And that's plenty. And I ended up on stage, it was closer to an hour, because I was doing so much talking. I was doing a bit of storytelling about the songs, and it seemed to have went down very, very well. And I was very happy with the gig. It was the first solo gig I've done since before the pandemic. And bearing in mind, I'd only done a few before the pandemic kicked in, because it was, I haven't done a solo gig in 10 years, more than 10 years. Way more than 10 years, actually. And so I was a wee bit, I'm not going to say I was nervous, but, I could have gotten nervous, let me say that. I didn't allow myself to get nervous, but it could have happened. But I enjoyed it so much. Oh my God, it was fucking so joyful. And then I have a gig now next Sunday coming in the Sunflower Bar with the Doon Brothers. It's sold out as well. So I'm going to be going up with my beautiful Janie, and Chris is going to come, I think, and Richie and Lisa, my McGee friends, my buds, my real brothers and sisters, and we're going to go and do that on Sunday and get a few pints, and it's going to be fucking great, and I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. So I'm going to be doing more of that as well. Someone asked me the other day, is the Bonneville's over? It's not over. I'm just doing this as well. I can do both. So if there's anybody out there who wants me to gig, let me know. I'll consider it. It's going to be. I'm not doing big gigs in rooms with rock crowds standing up shouting. I'm not doing that. It's quiet, city down. Sunday afternoon is perfect. It's that vibe. respectful, knowledgeable audiences that know what they're getting and know what they want. And it's to sit down and chill the fuck out for a couple of hours with a couple of pints and listen to some stories and some songs. And I'd love to do more of that. So let me know. Putting it out there. What else? Yeah, the other week I did some music for an advert. I told you about a whiskey. Liberty's brand whiskey out of Dublin. So that's all going ahead. I'm going to get the guy says I'll send you the video next week so you can check it out. He says the music's perfect for it. So I'm very excited about that. Again, anybody out there needs something done music-y, let me know. I won't be hard to pay, but I won't be free either. Don't do that shit. Don't work for free. So and whenever it comes in, I'll play it to you next week. I think it should be in next week. I think I should have it for next week. So let me know what you think. Look, that'll be exciting. And what else? So yeah, I went to a gig on Saturday night. My friend Mickey Bartlett, the stand-up, he had another big sellout gig at the Ulster Hall. I think he's done 3 or 4. By the time he's finished, he'll have done 3 or 4. They've been moved so many times. It's very frustrating for the lad. But my God, I laughed my fucking hole off from start to finish. And I had to go to that one, although Jeannie didn't go. Mickey left us tickets. And Jeannie didn't go to that one, didn't feel up to it. And a bit of a dramatic week last week here in the McGibbon house. I won't be telling you about it. It's too much. So by the end of the week, we were all a bit fucking wiped out. Again, one of the reasons why I never got to finish that song. So I went by myself, although Richie and Lisa was there, and it turns out Chris was there. I didn't even realise he was there. And I'll turn that light down. I'm fucking a bit washed out looking around that. I did it. There we go. That's better. And he was great. He was brilliant. So Mickey has one more gig, I think, in this run. It's at the end of the month. Mickey Bartlett, the Ulster Hall. I couldn't recommend stronger or any more. You go and see him. You'll probably piss yourself laughing. So, oh, there's my phone. Here's me again. Look. Yeah, fuck off, Duolingo. It is not time for my Irish lesson. Turn these down just in case somebody rings me in the middle of the thing. So I think that's all my updates done. Yeah. Yep. All done. So let's get to it. If you're on the live stream, if you're watching on the live stream, please come by. Come by. Say hello. Yeah, so let's do this. So let's get into it. What did I say the first thing I was going to do was the Brian Feeney article. So here we go. So Brian Feeney, this week has been particularly fucking, this past couple of weeks, Brexit just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse, doesn't it? So Ulster Unionism is in a constant state of demands with just wants what it wants, because in such a childish fashion. They want, as I said earlier on today, they want English sausages, British soldiers on the streets, and a militarised border. Seems to be what they want, and they want the First Minister position in the election after the election next May, whether they get enough votes to earn it or not, which is just supremacism. But what it does is, for me, and for lots of people, it is putting out there in the shop window the natural supremacy state that unionism considers itself to be. Northern Ireland for Northern Irish people and all this. And I know Doug Beattie I genuinely believe Doug Beattie is probably a dead-on guy, despite the fact that he was a British soldier and all this, and went to Afghanistan and all the rest of it. You know, I just think people like that are just wrong. I'm not saying he's not a bad person. Some people would say, well, he can shoot an Afghan shepherd, but I'm not saying that he did. But, That's tend to be what happened over there quite a bit. But how does that not make you a bad guy? Well, whatever. I won't get into that right now. But even Doug Beattie is refusing to answer a simple question. Mark Simpson on the BBC grilled him, said, "Are you saying that you won't accept the Deputy First Minister because Sinn Féin end up the biggest party?" And he wouldn't. He was saying, "Well, why? I'm not here to play for second place," which was a very good answer, but it wasn't the answer to the question. It was a very good answer to a question that wasn't asked. Because we know what the polls are saying. We know that Sinn Féin are probably going to come in next May as the biggest party in the North. So they're going to be the first. Someone from Sinn Féin is going to be the first minister. And the second party, be it the DUP or the UUP, get to nominate for the deputy first minister. Now these are both a joint office. It is a joint office. So it's purely symbolic. But we know how much unionism is into its symbols. So even Doug Beattie wouldn't say, and no one is saying, yeah, if Sinn Féin come back first minister, I will. Their unionism is united on that. They're not saying it, whether they do it or not. And what they say between now and then, that's what they're saying right now, and they're not saying it. So it's portraying unionism as being a supremacist political ideology. And it is. Northern Ireland was set up like that. That's what it's for. So, so with Brexit this week, there's a lorry driver crisis. Nigel Dodds was on Sky News saying that there's turmoil on the streets of Northern Ireland because of the Northern Ireland Protocol. There is not. Not happening. Supermarket shelves are full. There's a fuel crisis, apparently global. Nothing to do with Brexit or the Northern Ireland Protocol. The shortages that we saw in England, the queues outside petrol stations, we didn't see those here because of the Northern Ireland Protocol. And then you had the Tory Party conference, and in the Tory Party conference, Lord Frost, who's trying to renegotiate the Northern Ireland Protocol with the European Union, he gave a speech in an empty hall. There was no one there. No one gives a fuck. The English people do not care. Why should they? Why the fuck should they? Leave Ireland to us. We will do better. I'm absolutely certain of that. 100% convinced we will do better than the English at governing this island. How can we not? And certainly, and this northern 6 counties, bit of it. If the English want to get out of the European Union, that's up to them. Good luck to them. Again, another part about the whole Brexit thing that's become apparent this week, and it's something that I was saying. I said this years ago. If people vote for Brexit, I was saying this during the Brexit campaign before the actual election, before the referendum had happened. If people vote for Brexit, that's fine. I get it. Well, I don't, but I don't agree with it. But if you want to, that's fine. What I didn't understand, my point was, what are you voting for? You're not voting. There's been nothing. No preparations have been made. No preparations have been made for Brexit, and you're voting for that. And all the things that everybody said, people like me and people like you, we got called names, we got called Ramoners, and all worse, sneered at, laughed at, some people would call you a traitor, etc., etc., because you're allowing unelected officials do this, that, or the other thing over in Brussels. Whilst there's a House of Lords in London, you're complaining about unelected officials. Lord Frost is unelected. He is the guy that's negotiating the Brexit withdrawal agreement. Unelected. It's stupidity is what it is. But it also betrays the ideology of the ruling elite. They're into this is it's a free market ideology. They didn't prepare. They didn't prepare because they're idiots. They didn't prepare because they're lazy, and they also didn't prepare because it suits their ideology. They don't have let the market decide. The market will, if people want to buy it, if they don't want to, it'll go up, and if people don't want to buy it, it'll go down. If people want to buy it, we'll keep it, and if people don't want to buy it, it'll go away. That's free market capitalism, neoliberalism. That's what it is. That's what they believe in. The state is there to serve business, and by proxy, the people get what they want, get what they need. Right? It's such a childish ideology. It's blatantly untrue. But it's childish. But that informs how Brexit happened, because the people that were in charge, that's what they think. They do genuinely believe it. Now, the alternative is what's called a planned economy. So, if modern neoliberalism, modern capitalism, ultra right-wing free market capitalism, which is where we are, is the extreme version of capitalism, then I suppose the ultimate other side would be Soviet communism, where it's a planned economy, but everything is planned. So, like entire regions of your country are given over to producing a product, and that's it. Like, this area makes watches, that area grows carrots, this, So that's what Soviet communism was, which is obviously fucking wrong, as was bullshit too. That doesn't work either. So, what you're saying, where we are at the minute, is we need a plan. It's called a planned economy. You have to plan for your economy. These people don't do it. Clearly, you have to plan for your economy. How do you not have to plan for your economy? You have to make plans. You can't just leave it to the whims of the free market, which is exactly where we are. And once you understand that, you can see why certain things happen, and how they're allowed to happen, how they're allowed to go unchecked, uncorrected, unfixed. Why you constantly have your head in your hands, going, I don't get how these idiots keep getting away with this. They believe it. They genuinely believe it. When that dickhead was the, what do you call him? Oh, I can't even remember his name. Hancock was the health secretary, whilst doing what you and I consider to be one of the worst health secretaries in fucking history. For us, the users of the system, for the general working class public, that guy was the worst. For the rich, for the stock market, for the hedge funds, for the lobbyists, for the pharmaceutical industry, that guy was good. That's why they get kicked up. These people seem to fail upwards. They seem to fuck everything up, and then they get a promotion. It depends where you're looking at it from. It's about perspective, Dougal. The close up, far away. It's about that. It's about perspective. If you're looking at Matt Hancock from the position of a pharmaceutical company that wants to privatise the NHS, Matt Hancock did a great job. Do you know what I'm saying? Sorry, straight off on one there. I can't need to stop doing that because I have fucking so much stuff to read. So, here's the Brian Feeney article. I'm going to read it. Obviously, this is about us here in the north. So, the title is Johnson Wants to Tear Up the Withdrawal Agreement. So, Simon Coveney tweeted on Saturday, does the UK government actually want an agreed way forward or further breakdown in relations? After 5 years of British confrontation and bad faith, he should know better. Coveney was asking the wrong question. The answer is neither. It is blindingly obvious what the British government wants. And by the way, let's stop calling it the UK government, because the devolved administrations of the UK including the north of Ireland, don't agree with anything Johnson's crisis-ridden government does. What Johnson, currently sunning himself in Marbella, wants is to tear up the oven-ready withdrawal agreement of 2019 and the trade cooperation agreement of 2020, a fantastic deal, he lied at the time. His election-winning slogan, "Get Brexit Done," was a deceit, for he knew Brexit wasn't done, and furthermore, those parts of it which were done are disastrous for Britain. Johnson's frontman Frost was explicit yesterday. That's Lord Frost, the unelected official, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Was explicit yesterday in Portugal that it is not, this is a few days, this is last week, is not simply the protocol that's the issue, but the agreements whereby the European Court of Justice adjudicates on items of contention between Britain and the EU. Frost, a Johnson yes man who rose without trace to become the UK's chief negotiator, adheres to an eccentric 18th century concept of sovereignty, also advocated by a key Downing Street spad, John Bew. Essentially, it boils down to the notion that Britain can't be bound by any international agreement it doesn't like, and should not submit to an overriding decision enforced by any international body. And that's where we get the phrase perfidious Albion from. Can't trust the English. This is why. That would mean, in their opinion, a loss of sovereignty. It's an absurd stance in the modern world, but it harks back to ideas about Britain's period of splendid isolation at the end of the 19th century, and that ended well, didn't it? Which brings us back to the protocol. The British pretext, or instrument for unravelling the cat's cradle of international treaties Johnson signed up to in 2019 to 20. You will hear 2019 to 20. You will hear the usual rubbish from Jeffrey Donaldson. From Jeffrey, I could live with 40,000 job losses. Donaldson, about this being the response to unionist protests. As if the Tories are doing anything because of unionist protests. But in reality, the British government have played the unionists like a trout. First the orange card at Brussels, then street protests, then pretending to lend a sympathetic ear, but all designed to provide leverage to re-engineer the disastrous outcome of Brexit that Frost negotiated. As Coveney and others have pointed out, the EU cannot agree to sideline the CJEU, and Frost knows it. So just off the point here, or just off the article, if you remember last week, Britain were giving off, I can't remember who it was, probably Priti Patel because she's an evil fucker, but they were giving off about the Human Rights Act. They were looking to pull out of to unsign or unagree with the Human Rights Act, which is, imagine admitting that, like. But who the fuck's against human rights? But, well, people that aren't human, of course. Fucking monsters like the Tory party. That's how it is. Rights for monsters and chips. So the European Court. This is the point. This was I heard a guy explaining this on YouTube. It was ages ago, so I hope I don't mince this. So what it is, when you have trade agreements between countries, between jurisdictions or whatever, right? If you have a dispute about, this is about products, right? So that product doesn't meet the standard that we agreed to, right? And you say, no, it does. Well, you have to have somewhere to bring to bring it, to clear up the dispute. So let's say Brussels say, okay, England, these chickens that you're sending us don't meet the minimum requirements, and Britain goes, yes, it does. Well, you have to bring it somewhere to clear up the dispute, to present the evidence. So if Britain is right or Brussels is right, a judge, obviously, that's what you do. You bring it and you go, no, we say no because of these reasons, and we say yes because of these reasons. A judge looks at it and goes, well, okay, the chicken is fine because of these reasons. And Brussels goes, okay, court says, follow the law, let's go. Let's move on. So that's what that is. So because we've got an extreme Brexiteers in charge of the country, and as Brian Feeney pointed out, going on about fucking sovereignty, a bizarre concept in the 21st century when it comes to global trade. So you need a court, you need somewhere to bring this. The European Court was accepted as a part of the Brexit agreement. Why was it accepted? Because it was already there. Right? I would say it's probably one of the smart things that Britain did. Because they were going, right, well listen, we don't need to worry about that because it's already there, so we'll use that. We're happy to use that. But the ERG, the European Research Group, psychopaths, the right-wing, ultra-right-wing lobby within the Tory party are now, this is an affront to our sovereignty. The sovereignty card, which they've been banging on about every chance they get. As if it's not a solution. Now, it's the same attitude, it's the same approach that they bring to the Northern Ireland Protocol. It's exactly the same thing that fucking assholes like Jamie Bryson say, and Jim Allister, who I cannot believe his head hasn't exploded live on the fucking Nolan show. Jesus, Jim. I mean, I get passionate about things when I'm talking. If you know me, you know I'm a passionate guy, and I can get heated when I talk about these things. Fuck me, Jimbo, settle yourself, son. So it's the same language that these same people all use, right? Now, the problem with it is, whenever they're complaining about this, they're not bringing a solution. There's no solutions, and it's exactly the same with the Northern Ireland Protocol. Lord Frost is doing exactly the same when he's over in Portugal last week, and with everything that he does. There's no solutions. Can you remember all the way through? I mean, I can remember Jacob Rees-Mogg and Jeffrey Donaldson and Ian Paisley, Sammy Wilson, Boris Johnson, Kate Hoey, Nigel Farage. I can remember all of these people going on about the technical solutions that are out there. They kept saying it, and it was irritating to me at the time because they were challenged. To be fair, the journalists that were interviewing them, that they were saying it to, were challenging them, but they weren't challenging them enough for me. They needed to be firmer. They need to go, no, you said there's a solution out there. You need to present the solution and stop talking about the Switzerland border or the Norway-Sweden border, because they're two different fucking things. Right? So they don't bring this solution. So they don't want the European Court of Justice to adjudicate between trade disputes. Well, what do they want? Where are they going to go? The fucking Hague for war crimes? Some of them should be in there, by the way. Where are they going to go? Where else are they going to go? Set up a whole new other thing. They can't get food on supermarket shelves. How are they going to do this? There aren't enough officials. Whenever they were talking about, during the Brexit campaign, I remember this, they were talking about, we're going to do these great trade deals with China, we're going to do these great trade deals with the USA, you know what China said? We didn't realise that Britain had 5,000 spare officials and 10 years to negotiate this. That was China's response to Britain, to Brexiteers, and during the Brexit campaign. Because that's what it takes. It's huge. These things are fucking huge. What is this pen? What is this plastic? There's one for you. The European Union is taking steps to ban single-use plastics, which this is exactly what this pen here is. A single-use plastic. Right? How does Britain deal with that? Because Britain wants to sell stuff into the European Union, but they can't sell it in a little yogurt pot that's single-use plastic. Because you can't. That's what the European Union is going to decide to do. You can't do that anymore. And I, for one, am in full support of it. Well, the decisions have to be made somewhere. There's a place for any disputes that may come up. What is, and it's like, well, what is a single-use plastic? We need a definition. Well, I challenge your definition. Well, bring it to court. That's what you do, right? That's what they do. So, on with the article. So, it's the supreme authority of the single market and the customs union. Besides, no business organisation in the North has complained about the CJEU, the European Court. Only English Brexiteers. Isn't it extraordinary that it remains forever beyond the grasp of uber Brexiteers like Frost that when you say you want to make a deal with the union of 27 countries which has its own rules and legal code, you demand that it changes its rules specifically to accommodate you? How's that a fucking thing? However, the British demands outlined yesterday will provoke a real crisis, which will not be easily resolved. The veiled British demand, complete with a new legal text to open the withdrawal agreement and trade and cooperation agreement and incorporate a new protocol in them, will lead to retaliation from the EU. Not immediately, for they will invoke legal remedies first. However, the British will try to force the re-establishment of a British customs border in Ireland. That's why Donaldson was prepared to accept 40,000 job losses if there was no deal. The border was more important for unionists like him than the prosperity for people here. The prosperity for people here. And that's true. You know that's true. Eventually, in exasperation, the EU will have no option but to retaliate. They could use the power of the TCA to walk away, but more likely they will use trade sanctions, and that's a disaster for Britain. Britain can't afford this. All the whinging about the protocol obscures the fact that exactly the same paperwork and delays operate at Dover and have wrecked sections of Britain's businesses like fishing and cheese. But hey, what's 40,000 jobs when sovereignty's at stake? There you go. And by the way, do you know what the solution to it all is? Why is the EU tolerating listening to these children? Why? Because of the North, because of the situation. What's the solution? A united Ireland. Then the EU can just say, right, Britain, you fuck, awfully fuck. We don't care. Do what you like. These are our rules. You fuck off. The solution to this is a united Ireland. And just to see the fucking Tories and the ERG and the right wingers and Brexit, to see them get it in the eye like that, that alone is reason enough to vote for a united Ireland. So there you go. So there's the Brian Feeney article. I am half an hour into this fucking thing. Oh my god. I'm not going... Right. We're going to pile on here. Next article. I should start cutting these little videos up. That's what people do. They put these on YouTube. These, like I'm doing, like a live stream. But then they go and then they chop them up into the bits. So the Brian Feeney bit would be a bit. And then this Assange bit would be a bit. And it's 10 or 15 minutes, and people watch those. That would make more sense, but I don't have the fucking time to do it. Yes, I fucking do. Just being a dick, just being lazy. So, right, Nigel Farage. Who's Nigel Farage? Not Nigel Farage. Fuck me. Julian Assange. You see how I got it? Fuck them up. Two completely different characters, obviously. So Julian Assange is the founder of WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks is an organisation set up in the digital age specifically to allow whistleblowers to safely transfer information to be published in the digital age, right? So back in the 70s, 80s, you meet somebody in the basement of a car park or something, hide in the shadows and hand them a document and all that. So nowadays it's on a pen drive, and somebody gets the information, passes it on to the likes of WikiLeaks. Well, he set up the actual mechanism that allows for that transfer of information to be done safely while maintaining the anonymity of the whistleblower. Right? So that's what it is. What is WikiLeaks? And what is... So I'm still on the what is Julian Assange, what is WikiLeaks? Julian Assange is the most successful publisher in the history of journalism. Julian Assange is arguably the greatest journalist that has ever lived. In fact, I would say it's beyond arguable. He is. The information that he has put out, and the establishment hate him. Now, WikiLeaks has never had to retract a story. They're the only organisation in the world, publisher, which is what they are. They're the only publisher in the world that can claim the same. See, I've just put that up there. Well, that's the next story, Nigel Farage. So that's why I mentioned Farage and Assange. Because, let me do this. Just gonna wee video of the man, or a little picture of the man, so you know who I'm talking about. Which I'm sure you do. I know you know. You're a knowledgeable crowd. I know you know who he is. There he is. So, he sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy. And he was in there for years. Physical health suffered, mental health suffered. The Ecuadorian embassy offered, the president reached out because they were trying to extradite him to Sweden. And then Sweden has an extradition agreement with the USA, and they would have sent him on to the USA. And if he'd done that, he would be dead now. They were using what it turned out to be, and were claimed at the time, and quite clearly they were very dodgy charges of sexual assault. Turns out, as time has gone on, that those charges were completely made up, completely false. Sweden has dropped them altogether. Not going to happen. The people that made the charges, I think one of the people has made repeated sort of charges of mental health issues, sort of a thing going on with one of them. God love her. All sorts of dodgy as fuck. People were paid, all sorts of stuff, right? Very, very dodgy. So he ended up getting kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy because, well, actually he wasn't kicked out. He was there. He refused to leave, and the Met Police raided the embassy, which is unheard of. This is an international diplomatic incident at this point, because you know your embassy is sovereign territory. There's a sovereign word again. And you don't do it, but it was done, and it was an international outrage at the time, and another incident of rule breaking, law breaking, the police, the lawmakers breaking the law, and it was just overlooked largely. It was reported, of course, but didn't get. It should have been front page news for fucking months. He was then transferred to Belmarsh Prison, where he resides today, and he's not in a good way. Mentally, physically, he's very bad. The whole point of this is that the establishment, the CIA, the American establishment, is trying to just destroy him, because he's so good. He showed us the video of the helicopter gunship massacre and the people in the square, called Collateral Damage. I showed it in an episode ages ago. I should have showed it again, actually. It's horrific. And basically, he's just a man that has consistently embarrassed the establishment. And this is what this is all about. This is just about getting him for that. Bear in mind, never told a lie yet. He's revealing state secrets, but what is called a state secret these days is what's so dodgy. I must say that, because if you get a document from the government under document from the government, journalists are complaining. You know, the whole document is redacted, so you get the document, but you can't read any of it. It's just blacked out. And there's more and more of that, and then there's more and more of stuff being called you can't get the information because it's state secrets. It's not state secrets, or it'd be dangerous. It's not, but they're just sort of, they slot that bit in there, and then it gets categorized as that. Then the journalism isn't getting done. Not that the journalists, many journalists are doing it anyway, and so this is where Assange comes into it. So here's, again, whether you knew this or not, I don't know, but it's another stunning report that the CIA discussed and basically plotted to murder Assange in the streets of London, like have a shootout from a Bourne movie in the streets of London to kill this man. This is how desperate they are to shut him up. Because WikiLeaks is still going. So, here's the article. I'm going to read it to you. It was just before start. It was actually, I told you at the beginning, it went out on it was a Yahoo News. Who I've read a few of their articles recently. I'm starting to realise that they're quite a good news source. They did an expose. It's fucking massive. I haven't read it all, but I will. I'll get through it. It's massive. I mean, it's a massive article. So this Guardian article kind of gets you there. So here we go. Senior CIA officials during the Trump administration discussed abducting and even assassinating WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, according to a US report. The discussions on kidnapping and killing Assange took place in 2017, Yahoo News reported, when the fugitive Australian activist was entering his 5th year sheltering in the Ecuadorian embassy. The then CIA director, Mike Pompeo, that's the way he talks like that, Mike Pompeo, and his top officials were furious about the WikiLeaks publication of Vault 7, a set of CIA hacking tools, a breach which the agency deemed to be the biggest data loss in its history. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. Shut that one down. Right. The discussions on kidnapping or killing Assange. Pompeo and the CIA leadership were completely detached from reality because they were so embarrassed about the Vault 7 leaks. Yahoo cites a former Trump national security official as saying they were seeing blood. Some senior officials inside the CIA and the Trump administration went as far to request sketches or options for killing Assange. There seemed to be no boundaries. A former senior counter-terrorist official was quoted as saying, the CIA declined to comment. You see, when the book is written about the CIA, the crimes, they are up to their necks in everything. You won't believe what they've done. They're every assassin. Oh my God. I don't know who's going to write it, because they'll probably get murdered before it fucking gets published. The kidnapping or murder of a civilian accused of publishing leaked documents with no connection to terrorism would have triggered global outrage. Again, off the article, and no one would trigger global outrage. Ultimately, no one will give a fuck. It's the CIA. They get away with everything. Back to the article. Pompeo raised eyebrows in 2017 by referring to WikiLeaks as a non-state hostile intelligence service. The Yahoo report said that it was a significant designation, as it implied a green light for a more aggressive approach to the pro-transparency group by CIA operatives who could treat it as an enemy espionage organisation. Barry Polak, Assange's US lawyer, did not respond to the request for a comment, but told Yahoo News, as an American citizen, I find it completely outrageous that our government would be contemplating kidnapping or assassinating somebody without judicial process, simply because he had published truthful information. Think about that. For once, think about that for a second. The US government, is contemplating kidnapping or assassinating somebody without any judicial process simply because he had published truthful information. And by the way, the kidnapping plot, where were they going to bring him? Because they couldn't bring him to the US. So where were they going to bring him? Well, where did they bring people that they kidnap? You know the answer. You know where it is. Guantanamo Bay. What's Guantanamo Bay? Guantanamo Bay is an area of Cuba that America illegally occupies purely to keep a military base and a prison on it in the modern era for what they call extraordinary renditions, for kidnapping people from sovereign countries. Third time I've used that word. Going into countries in the dead of night, using their special forces, SEAL teams and CAS spooks to put a bag over someone's head, fuck them into the back of a van, and 12 hours later the bag's pulled off and they're in fucking Guantanamo Bay. They're in Cuba and not the nice bit. That's what they mean by kidnapping. And America's the good guys. They're the fucking good guys. No due process. No innocent until proven guilty. None of that. Just away. Tortured. For the rest of your life. Back to the article. My hope and expectation is that the UK courts will consider this information and it will further bolster its decision not to extradite to the US. Assange had been sheltering in the Ecuadorian embassy since 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden to face sexual assault allegations, which have been disproven. He was arrested in 2019 after being evicted by the Ecuadorian government and is now in prison. Sorry, I got that wrong. I'm going to back up there. I got that wrong. He was evicted by the Ecuadorian government. That's true. So the police were invited in to remove him. But apparently that was still a bit of a thing. But the reason that I completely mulled that. The reason that the Ecuadorian government changed their mind was because there was a change of government in Ecuador. So the previous left-wing administration got voted out and was replaced by a right-winger, which is president, which is actually kind of really fucked up. That the guy is actually called Lenin, as in Lenin, Lenin. I think he was named after Lenin. Lenin Moreno, I think that's his name, Morello or something like that. So he comes into power. He goes to the World Bank. The World Bank give him a loan, which is obviously controlled by the USA and the powers that be there. The government give the World Bank give the Ecuadorian government a loan, and shake of a lamb's tail later, Julian Assange is in Belmarsh prison. So I retract what I said there about that earlier on. So US prosecutors have accused him under the Espionage Act of seeking to assist Chelsea Manning in hacking a military computer network to obtain classified documents, attempting to help the former US Army analyst, and conspiring to obtain and publish classified documents in violation of the Espionage Act. The use of the Espionage Act in the case was heavily criticised by human rights groups who pointed out that it opened the door for its use against investigative journalists in general, much of whose work revolves around obtaining and publishing information that governments would prefer to keep secret. So that's what this is. Can you dig it? You get it? You get what this is now? This is not about bringing to justice a hacker, which is what has been said. He doesn't hack it, fuck all. It's not about bringing to justice thieves, a thief. It's not about bringing to justice an assaulter of women. It's not about that. It's about the state extracting revenge on the most successful publisher that has ever lived, who has never had to retract one story and has never been sued in court successfully. They publish documents. By the way, many of those documents, which are also published by The Guardian, by The Times, by The Washington Post, by The New York Times, by The LA Chronicle, right? The papers of note. They publish the same documents. They take information off WikiLeaks and publish it. All the stuff of collateral damage and the stuff about that Chelsea Manning dropped and stuff that Snowden has dropped. And these newspapers have all published bits of that. Some of them extensively. The Guardian was up to its neck in it with Glenn Greenwald, as it was mentioned in the article. Until they betrayed him. But they were up to their neck in it. How come they're not going after them? How come he's the one? They publish his information and he's getting they're trying to kill him for publishing exactly the same information. This is a petty act of revenge and a warning to anyone else that might be thinking of doing the same thing. If you do this, this is what we will do to you. That's that. So, on to the next article. That is a shocker, right? You should be shocked. I hope you are shocked, because it's a massive. As our corporate states become more intertwined with global capital and corporations, and they're becoming some it's quite difficult to see the distinction, if there's any distinction between corporations and governments in a lot of places, a lot of instances. More corporate lobbying, which is just bribery, the owning of politicians to get them to do your bidding, further removing individuals from the real levers of power. The democracy, the carrot on a stick of democracy. We're bringing democracy to the world. What does that mean? Which is an excuse given for causing death and destruction, decimation of countries and cultures and people. What does democracy mean? Say, well, one man, one vote. I have one vote. You have one vote. But if you're a corporation or you're a lobbyist, you've got more than one vote. You get one vote plus, because you've got access. You've got money, and with money you get access to power. And that's what this is. You donate £100,000 to the Tory party, you can have dinner with Boris Johnson. It doesn't take that much. It's enough that people like us will never be able to do it. So when we're talking about democracy, that's what we're talking about. It depends what you mean by democracy. As if it's this great thing. It can be, but in and of itself, just say the word and it's out there and you don't think about it anymore. No, it needs a lot of work. Voting once every 5 years isn't enough. So there we go. Oh, by the way, that Julian Assange article wasn't reported on the BBC News website. The CIA were planning a shootout in the streets of London and the BBC never reported it. Sorry, no, they did report it. Oh, just in case anybody goes, oh, no, they did. Oh, you're right, they did report it. They did report it. They reported it on BBC Somali language. Can you see there? I've got it up in the window. There it is. That's a Somali language version of the BBC. That's where you can read this article. Somalia. Aye, yeah, Somali. There's their top of the screen. So there you go. So if you think, so you say, well, what does that prove? Well, it proves by omission. There's a vested interest there. Someone's made a decision. Say, well, we can't not report it. So what we'll do, we'll report it in the Somali language, on the Somali language version of our website only. They don't report about a shootout, a planned assassination stroke kidnapping attempt of one of the most famous prisoners that's ever lived. in the streets of London, and we're not going to report it in our English language, London-based website. I don't know who or why or what, but you can't tell me that that's an accident. And there's a great thing. You say, well, if it's an accident, you say, well, it's just an oversight, or it's an accident. We didn't mean. We fucked up. Whatever it is. If it's an accident, you expect things to fall 50% one side of it and 50% the other side of it. So when these organisations make their mistakes, some of them will go some way and some of them will go the other way. If it's an accident, if it's an oversight, if it's genuine, an omission, a genuine accidental omission. But they're not. They all go one way. It's always that side. So therefore, it's what? It's not an accident. How could it be? So, wait, what time have we got? Right, we're going to blast through these because it's 10 past. I've been doing this for an hour. Turn her down. So Nigel Farage is in the Ra. What? Yep, Nigel Farage is in the Ra. How do you know? Because he fucking said it. There we go. There's a picture of Bart Simpson saying it. So, here's a great... I'll play you the video first, right? Because it's genuinely class. So Nigel... No, I'll read the article. Here we go. So, using the video sharing website Cameo, Brian O'Callagher's friend paid for Farage to post a clip wishing the Waterford man a happy birthday as he turned 33 on Sunday. In the 25-second recording, Farage says, "This message is for Brian, a Brexiteer. I hope you have a great birthday. This comes from your good friend Aidan." He says a bit more. He says, "I'll have a few pints tonight," and then he finishes with "up the Ra." I'll play you the video in a sec, just what exactly that happened. But I'm reading the article because of what Farage says. So Mr. Farage told the Belfast Telegraph, "I do a large number of Cameo messages and always reject those that are unsuitable, but the odd one can slip through the net. It did not occur to me that this particular request was a hoax, and any suggestion to the contrary is absurd." GB News Presenters Press Office said Mr. Farage probably didn't know the meaning behind the phrase "up the Ra" when he shouted it in the video. The Cameo site and app allows fans to pay for personalised video messages with more than 30,000 celebrities. So, as of October 21, a personal message for an individual from Nigel Farage cost €90, 76 quid, including a service fee. When asked by the Belfast Telegraph if Mr. Farage knew the implications of the expression, his press aide said, "I imagine he probably didn't, otherwise he wouldn't have said it like that now, would he?" Brian O'Callagher, who now lives in Leicester, posted the video on his Facebook page. "Quite possibly the best birthday present I've ever gotten, courtesy of Aidan Hart and my mate Nigel Farage. The post, I'm going to call him Farage because Farage sounds French, and that's obviously it is French origin, I would say. But Farage is because it sounds like garage, so I'm going to say Farage. The post attracted many comments from people wondering if the clip was real and sharing disbelief that Farage had actually uttered the slogan. I saw it and I didn't do. I think I did retweet it and then I took it down because I didn't know if it was like one of those deep fakes, you know, those things. But it's not. It's legit. So the clip has been reshared across various social media sites, including Twitter, where it was posted by a user with an accompanying statement suggesting Farage is not getting an invite to TUV Jim Allister's Christmas party. It has been viewed on Twitter more than 60,000 times. Fuck me. That's fucking brilliant. With one user stating, "The ARA would probably say up Farage because he's done more to harm the UK than they managed." Ah! Brilliant. Class. Love it. Another wrote, "Never knew Farage was an Irish Republican, but many commented on the bizarreness of the clip in general. On the blogging site Reddit," that's where I saw it. First of all. "A user with the screen name Figel Narge." Oh, the internet is funny as fuck, isn't it? Figel Narge wrote, "Of course Nige knows what up the ra means. He was married to an Irish woman and an MEP, was an MEP for 20 years. Come on, guys and girls, he's doing these videos for money, and he has the last laugh. And that was my point. I put it up on Twitter because people were, and there's, you can see on the screen there, I said he wasn't hoaxed or tricked. He was paid. So another wrote, I tried to see it from a few sides, and I thought, would I laugh if he'd said up the UVF? And I said, yes, I would. I would too. He sold something like 14 tickets to his recent attempted tour in the US, said a different blogger, in response to a separate comment, said that Farrage must be desperate for money. The first date of America's comeback tour featuring Nigel Farrage this year was in fact reported to have attracted 21 attendees, 6 of whom were members of his own team. Ooh. The former UKIP leader Farrage, who led Reform UK, the renamed Brexit Party, now hosts his own self-named evening show on GB News, which apparently is tanking. Earlier this year, when he stepped down from politics and joined Cameo, The Guardian reported that a personalised clip from the 57-year-old costs less than Lewis MacLeod, an actor who would deliver your message as Boris Johnson, but 75p more than the ex-Donald Trump aide Sebastian Gorka. Oh, I'd like a message from him. He's a fucking psycho. If you don't know who he is, I'll tell you about him someday. He's an interesting cat, as in evil. Like a cat, if it was any bigger, it would eat your face. So, I think that's brilliant. So, let me play you the video. So, you'll hear this. If you're listening to this on the pod, you'll hear this. So, here we go. I hope I've got it all teed up right. I think I do.
This message is for Brian Kelleher, Brexiteer, and I hope you have a great birthday. This comes from your good friend Aidan. Now, it's a bit early in the day, so all I've got actually is coffee, but I hope you enjoy a few pints with the lads tonight. Up the ra! This message is for Brian Kelleher, Brexiteer. Brilliant. And I hope you have a great birthday. This comes from your good friend Aidan. Now, it's a bit early in the day, so all I've got actually is coffee, but I hope you enjoy a few pints with the lads tonight. Up the ra!
He's a tit.
This message is for...
There we go. So, there was kind of a bit of a thing going around that was a deep fake, but turned out that it was not, as you heard. I think it's class. And it also, one of the important things you must understand from this is this man will do anything for money. He'll do what he's told for money. For a fee of €87. That's fucking, Jesus Christ, dude. Have a bit of fucking dignity, will you? Here, so this is from the Irish Times, this little bit here, just seen it. Asked if he would read out a message if he knew it supported the IRA, Farrage replied, "Are you joking? I had a face-to-face death threat from them." Fuck, I didn't know that. Well, I still think you could fucking talk him into it. Fucking prick. Oh, he's a asshole, isn't he? How that frog mouth half-wit ended up leading a country to cut its own throat like that, I have no idea. So, that's that. So, next article. This is us. We're going to read this. So this is the culture section. And again, as I said at the start, this to me is the thing about the loss of our culture. I'd never heard of these. It shouldn't surprise me really that they've turned up, or that they're a thing. But I didn't realise. But these things obviously exist all over the world, and not unique to Ireland, of course. But I'd never heard of them. So wait till you hear. So what is it I'm talking about? I'm talking about Sweathouses. And I don't mean places where you go to work. I mean, like your bosses coming down on you. I don't mean that. I mean sweathouses. So have a listen. So the unearthing of Ireland's mysterious naked sweathouses. Ooh, sexy. So let's hear this. So, until the 1900s, when people in Ireland got sick, they would get naked and disappear into steamy saunas. I think we should do more of that. More saunas. Now, a new project is aiming to uncover these time-worn structures' secrets. Naked and sweaty, they laid inside grass-covered stone igloo-like structures in the remote fields of Ireland. Some were ill. Others may have been having hallucinations or hatching plans to distill illegal alcohol, or imagining they were Vikings who once raided this country. By the time these adult folk emerged from the structures back into the fresh air of the 19th century Ireland, they had been through a jarring mental and physical journey, one that still holds many mysteries. I love that. I love that. Some people reckon the cure was worse than the disease. Archaeologist Aidan Hart told me of this sweltering experience as he stood atop a 150-year-old Irish sweathouse in Killidiskert, an isolated corner of County Leitrim. Part of the reason there's crazy theories about hallucinations and making alcohol is because we just don't fully know the truth about sweathouses and all their uses. They're a bit of a riddle that we're now trying to work out. I bet you a fucking £100 that there was hallucinogenic drugs involved in this, mushrooms or something like that. Right? I bet you. These sweathouses could have been a religious experience, spiritual experience too, because everything was connected, you know, in the old pagan thing. Everything was spiritual and religious and had other meaning. Which is what, whenever you distill your world down into this small capitalist, everything, a thing can only have value if it can be bought or sold. And nothing has a meaning. There's a line from, I can't remember what the movie is. It was Pulp Fiction. And the Bruce Willis character, the taxi driver, I think she's called Esmeralda or something, and she says, it means this, you know, it means something, something beautiful. She says some expression. And he's called Butch, and she goes, what does that mean? She says, I'm an American, our names don't mean shit. That's where we've come to. But in the old world, everything had meaning. Everything was connected. Everything was connected to everything else. And there was an understanding of place that we don't have anymore. And that's what these little things signify for me. That's what they indicate for me. And the recognition of them is a recognition of that we've lost them. And in the losing of them, we've lost a part of ourselves. This is what I believe. So, back to the article. Hart is leading the new Leitrim Sweathouse project with Leitrim County Council Heritage Officer Sarah Malone. Malone said their aim was to identify and demystify these time-worn structures which are scattered across Ireland and were used as a sort of extreme stone sauna from the early 16th to the early 1900s. She said there are so far recorded more than 100 sweathouses in Leitrim alone. I had no fucking idea. It's brilliant. I would love to do that. More than anywhere else in Ireland, and a staggering concentration given that this tiny Greater London sized county is home to fewer than 35,000 people. For generations, most of these mysterious beehive shaped structures have sat dormant and forgotten in Leitrim, a whisper quiet picturesque county in Ireland's northwest, characterised by sprawling farms, petite towns, and the kind of intensely green, hilly landscape that inspired countless Irish poems. According to Hart, wait a minute here, what is this from? It's the BBC. Okay, they're fucking rattling on. Sorry, I didn't realise it was a BBC article. Not that I wouldn't have read it. Just when they start going on about, you know, everyone's fucking bally go backwards, isn't it? So, this is the way it is in Ireland, inhabited for more than 10,000 years. According to Hart, that's because many of the sweat houses are on properties owned by farmers who know little about them other than them being impediments to agriculture. This is the way it is in Ireland, inhabited for more than 10,000 years. The nation is laden with so many archaeological sites that they cannot all be pinpointed, probed and preserved. Now the Leitrim Sweathouse project is seeking volunteers to collate information and oral histories on this little known aspect of Ireland's history. That's fucking brilliant. So, fortunately, Leitrim stone mounds are still sturdy. Nothing shifted as I scaled the 2.2 tall kilodiscard structure to earn striking views of the undulating farmland that surrounds it. It shouldn't cave in, Hart said cheekily. Seriously though, these things were made to last. Once I stepped back onto the soggy earth, Hart ran his hand across the Sweathouses' uneven surface as he explained its construction. Most Irish Sweathouses were built into hillsides or banks to bolster their foundation and set in remote locations near a water source. Chunks of uncut rock, each a different shape and size, were carefully piled and then bonded with clay and sod to create a dome structure with a single low entrance, similar in appearance to an igloo. And so it is. It looks like a stone wall. Like you see a stone wall in the field. It looks a bit like that on the inside. On the outside, as he said, they're covered in sod. Turf or wood was lit inside the Sweathouse. Before its entrance and roof vent were blocked, Hart said after a few hours smoke would be released and the embers swept out and a naked person would crawl into the stifling space and sweat for as long as they could bear it. That's brilliant. Eventually they would emerge to clean and cool themselves in a nearby stream. Sometimes their condition improved, Hart said. The Sweathouse had unfurled its earthen magic. And while sweating has proven medical benefits, including helping to improve blood circulation and filter toxins out of the body, according to Ronan Foley, these naked sauna sessions were often nothing more than a placebo. It would be very reasonable to assume the Sweathouse cure did not work all the time for all people. That's fair enough, isn't it? So I'm going to finish. The article is really long, so I'm going to just scroll to the end. Give me a second here. Right, okay. I'll read the last paragraph, last bit. None of these, an even greater mystery than the use of the Sweathouses is their origin. Yet none of these theories convince Foley. Instead, he believes Ireland's Sweathouses emerged organically. I feel they were a sort of local variant of a global culture. Holy fuck, I just said that. I said that at the start, didn't I? They're everywhere. Of global culture, production of sweating cure places, he said. The healing value of sweating was well known. Building small buildings that induced sweating from local materials would have been sort of worked out by Irish rural dwellers. Today, Ireland's ancient Sweathouses are valuable artefacts of the country's rural history. Hart's project could even help these long neglected structures become offbeat tourist attractions. You should fucking start them back up again. That'd be brilliant. I'd be there in the morning. A bit of DMT, going on a wee trip. Brilliant. I want to do a bit of that. I want to do a bit of that Sweat Lodge DMT shit, mind expansion stuff. I'm really into that idea. I'd love to do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm not just going to buy some DMT off the fucking black web or anything like that, the dark web or anything like that. No, thank you. I would need to do it with somebody that knows what they're doing. So I'm not a big drug guy. I don't do drugs, really. I've smoked a bit of weed in my time. Not much. It makes me sleep, so I don't really bother. But I think I'd be into psychedelics. But again, I would want to be careful with them. Because I know that you can really, we all know what happened to Peter Green and lots of others. So, Sarah McCarthy, a regional development officer for Fáilte Ireland, the country's national tourism body. We know that culture and heritage form a significant element of Ireland's appeal to overseas visitors. Fuck me, of course it does. The Leitrim Sweathouses and the associated research project reveal a hidden part of our history and heritage and add to the riches for the visitor to uncover. Hart shares this hope, but as he bent down to peek into the tight opening of the Sweathouse, he conceded most of these structures aren't yet ready to accommodate tourists. While tourists are able to gain direct access to the nearby Sweathouses at St Hugh's Well and Parks Castle, Killadiscart Sweathouse and many others are on private land, and even as an archaeologist, Hart hadn't always found it easy getting permission. Yeah, sorry, mate. Right, that's the last line. One day, Ireland's sweaty, naked saunas may be renowned, preserved, and pinned to a tourist trail. For now, however, they remain enigmatic stone humps hidden in the emerald landscape, waiting for someone to unravel their secrets. I'm sorry, you can't own that. Nobody owns that. The people of Ireland own that. If that's on your private land, that bit of it you don't own. It's like saying you own a fucking mountain. I never understood the rivers. I own the river. No, you don't. How do you own a river? Because it goes through you. No. No, you don't. You can't own this stuff. If it's on your land, that's either your good fortune or your bad fortune, depending on your perspective. And if I had access to one of those sweat houses, I would be doing everything I could to get the bugger opened, because I think it's a brilliant idea. A couple of magic mushrooms. I'm certain they must. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. They must have done that. They must have done magic mushrooms and got a bit fucking psychedelic in there. Have you listened to Irish mythology? Have you read much of it? Can't tell me these people weren't on drugs. Of course they fucking were. Off their tits. So there we go. All done. All done. So, thanks very much for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. I'm going to put a thing up. Let me know. Should I do this live stream later in the evening? I think I maybe might do that. So, I'll go do that maybe. Let me know if you have an opinion, one way or the other. Like, share, subscribe, everybody. And I shall get talking to you next week. Alright? Alright. Toodle pip. Where the fuck am I? I'm trying to figure out how to shut this down. I'm all over the place tonight. There we go. There we go. Okay. Bye.